Damit hallo und herzlich willkommen zur allerneuesten Folge von All in NFT. Es ist wieder soweit, die neueste Podcast-Sonderfolge bei All in NFT steht an und heute zu Gast ist Zeneca. Zeneca, eines der größten Web3-Gesichter, der sich in den vergangenen 1-2 Jahren wirklich eine riesen Community und ein riesen Business aufgebaut hat. Ich denke, von ihm können wir noch eine Menge lernen und es freut mich, dass wir dieses Podcast-Interview so hinbekommen haben. Vorab schon mal, das Ganze wird gleich auf Englisch ablaufen. Anders war es nicht möglich. Ihr wisst, normalerweise passiert das Ganze hier nicht auf Englisch, aber da kann man mal ein Auge zudrücken, würde ich sagen. Deswegen viel Spaß mit der heutigen Folge. Auf YouTube könnt ihr euch das Ganze dann live noch mit Video anschauen. Wir quatschen jetzt über die Zenecas NFTs, über die Zen Academy, über den Anfang von Zeneca, dass Zeneca sogar mal in Deutschland gewohnt hat und trotzdem kein Deutsch spricht. Schade an dieser Stelle. Und was es in Zukunft mit seiner PFP Collection auf sich hat, die bald gedroppt wird. Ich wünsche euch damit einfach jetzt nur viel Spaß mit der heutigen Podcast-Sonderfolge von All in NFT. Yeah, hello Zeneca. Nice to meet you. Our first meet was in at the NFC Lisbon this year at the Zen meetup, and it was pretty cool to meet you. First question here, how are you?
I'm very well. It was great to meet you there as well, and very good to be here. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. You tell me before you are in Dubai at this time.
Yes.
How's the weather and how's the life in Dubai?
The life is great. It's a wonderful city. A lot of Web3 crypto people are here. So it is nice to be somewhere where there's a lot of like the local community into this stuff, but it is hot. It is like 43, 44 Celsius these days.
Is it the main place where you live, or you are turning around to the world, or
this
you
is
live
the main
there?
place.
It's the main place.
Yeah, for now. The plan is to go. So I'm originally from Australia, so go back to Australia towards the end of the year, and then I'll still be based in Dubai, but I'll spend a good amount of time in Australia and traveling elsewhere.
Okay, pretty cool. I think we can start with you as a person. Yeah. How are you? Where you was born? Where you live? What do you do? Maybe you can tell us something.
Yeah. So I was born in Australia. I basically lived there until I was around 30. So my whole life, born and raised in Australia. I was a professional poker player for about 15 years. So after high school, that's kind of the thing that I did with my life. Up until crypto. So from about 2005 to 2021, I was playing poker professionally. And then in 2021, I heard about NFTs. Like I knew a bit about crypto. I got in 2017 a little bit, but like not fully seriously. But in 2021, that's when I heard about NFTs and DeFi and like all this stuff that had been created. And now you can actually use crypto to do things. And like that really piqued my interest, and I was like, okay, this is very cool. I want to spend my time digging into this world. And so that's sort of when I went kind of all into the crypto space. And I was actually living in Munich at the time. So before Dubai, I spent 3.5 years living in Munich.
In Munich, do you speak German?
Sadly not. I wanted to learn, but so we moved in July 2019. And was starting to learn a little bit, and then COVID, in 6 months later. So couldn't go out, couldn't speak to anyone, all masks. It was difficult. So then I sort of was like, okay, well, not gonna keep trying to learn.
I think you was a few weeks ago in Munich, with a meetup.
Yes, we had a small meetup there.
Yeah,
it was great.
Cool. I think so. Okay, then 2021 you was your entry in the NFT space. So I know you have a personal brand with your Bored Ape. I think that was a time where you just where you start with your entry. What was your first NFT? Was it this Bored Ape, or do you start?
No, it was some total meme project that some friends, just some pixelated junk. again, like back then, I didn't know what I was doing. Like most people, when you're getting in, you don't know what you're doing, and your friends buy something, and you like, oh, I'll try and buy, and it didn't really go anywhere. But pretty early on, I found art blocks, which I sort of like that's where I started collecting, and I was buying them to flip and trade and make money, but eventually sort of fell in love with the collecting of art blocks as well. So generative art and collecting art blocks has been pretty early on in my career, is something that I've always loved to do.
Yeah. Really cool. For me, maybe 1 year later, my first NFT was an art block NFT. And I don't know what I do at this time, but it was a good choice after this. Yeah. And then you came to, you're going deeper to the NFT space. Yeah. I think your research and something just more are you influencing in crypto space before you was in the NFT space?
No.
Or after this time? When was the start with your influencing? You are, I tell it before, for maybe people, they don't know it, you are a big face on Twitter, on Web3 face, you're on conferences, and have, maybe we come later to this, the own Zen Academy. When was the start of your personal brand in the Web3?
Yeah, so I had nothing before I started my Twitter account, which I did in March 2021. Yeah. And then around June, I think it was. So I had my Twitter, and I was just sort of following other people and not really doing much. And then I started writing a newsletter, because I personally, I like writing a lot. It's the thing that I like to do. And I started a newsletter just covering events in the NFT space. And that just
newsletter
started...
newsletter only on Twitter, or maybe a mailing newsletter?
Mailing. So
okay.
Substack I used, yeah. And that's when it like started taking off, and I shared it around a bit, and people were like signing up to the newsletter. And that's when I also started posting more on Twitter. So I would tweet some threads, and then eventually I started doing some analysis on the floor price of projects. And I had this like spreadsheet that I would update manually every single day, because back then you couldn't find the floor prices. There was no, like, OpenSea didn't have it. There was no Blur or marketplaces or analytics platforms or apps. You had to manually go and look. So I had this spreadsheet that I kept for myself, and I tweeted it out at some point, and people sort of loved it because it was saving people time and providing this piece of data for people. And so a combination of my newsletter and these Twitter posts in June 2021, it just sort of is also like the beginning of the true bull market. So everything just went crazy. Lots of people were entering the space and following. And yeah, that's kind of where it all kind of started from. And it wasn't a big plan. I didn't set out to grow a personal brand or be an influencer. It just sort of somewhat organically happened, which was really nice.
So it was not your plan, yeah, but you tell it, you have good content, and after this you make a personal brand, and people like this, yeah. And with good content, with a personal brand, with your purple Bored Ape, with your purple brand like this, you started a big trip, yeah. When was your entry with your Bored Ape? Do you just mint it there, or do you buy after maybe some floor like 1-2 ETH?
I missed the mint. I was in the space when it minted, but I got in about a few weeks later. So at like 0.5 to 0.7 ETH is when I bought. So still a very fortunate time to be buying the apes. Yeah,
it was a focus on this Bored Ape because it's your brand. Yeah, every person in the Web3 and NFT space know what's your Bored Ape, and this is Zeneca's. Was it your choice at this time, or was it random?
So it wasn't fully random. It was, so the specific one that I have is back in the early days of 2021, when Bored Apes were coming out, there was this like conversation going on about the floor price of Bored Apes and the floor price of Meebits. So there's the other collection that Lava Labs dropped. And the Meebits had minted out at 2.5 ETH, and their floor price was slowly dropping. Bored Apes minted out at 0.08 ETH, and their floor price was going up. And so there was like the question was like, will Bored Apes ever like flip Meebits? Will they, take over? And so my specific ape, it was the one that like, it was at like 0.7. And like, if I bought it, then the Bored Ape floor would be higher than the Meebits floor. So I saw that and I was like, oh, I got to get that one. That was the one that I felt like just a good story. So I was like, yeah. And I didn't have enough money at the time because this was, I was early days, and 0.7 ETH is a couple thousand, $2,000-$3,000, I think, in those days. So I had to, from my Australian bank account, deposit money to a centralized exchange, convert that to ETH, withdraw it to my MetaMask wallet, and then buy the ape.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah, think about that. That's like 2 years maybe. Yeah, and what's happening at this time? Yeah, so many random things. Yeah, you started. You have to you choose your Bored Ape. You must make a personal branding, and now you are here. Really perfect. We come maybe later in your timeline. You have your Bored Ape. You start with a newsletter. You make your Twitter followers. Yeah, reach out. What was the next step in your plan?
So then I launched Zen Academy in November 2021. And basically, so I had been creating my newsletter and Twitter following and everything, and it was taking more and more and more of my time. It was, becoming a full-time job, basically, to write and research and create content. And I thought, well, I'll need to figure out some sort of income stream to support life and family and all this other stuff if I'm not doing anything else. And the traditional sort of Web2 model is you have a paid newsletter or a Patreon or things like that. And I thought, you know what, we're in the NFT space. Let me experiment, and I'll sell an NFT that gives people access to some of this stuff. And that's the idea that I went into Zen Academy with. And I this was when everyone was launching PFP projects, but I didn't want to do another PFP project because it was more of like a membership token to access a community. And so we did just a basic ERC 1155 where everyone has the same token. It was a relatively low mint price at the time, 0.033 ETH. And that's where we began. We had no roadmap. I had no roadmap. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just thought, let me just try this out, see where this goes. I know I'm going to continue to build and operate in this space, and I want to have a community that forms around that. And that was the beginnings.
This was your Legend Genesis collection with 333. This was the first.
So there's two different things I launched at the same time. So this is the Zen Academy Genesis, where it was an open edition. So we had about 8,000 that were minted over the course of 2 weeks. And then in parallel, I had the 333 Club. That's like a collection of only 333. It's much more exclusive. It had a higher mint price, and it was targeted towards people who wanted advisory services, consulting services. They wanted to like literally book time in my calendar to have consulting calls with me. And so obviously it's a much lower supply because I can't meet that many people. But I still, every week we'll have a few calls with members from that community.
Yeah. I have a small question. Yeah. I think a big problem is, and many people saw this at this time with Genesis collections. Yeah. You tell us something about Patreon, about a newsletter payment and something. The positive thing of this use cases is this: you have monthly rewards. Yeah. And if you launch an NFT project, you have maybe a big impact at this time, but later, the people want more, but you have no something payment like this because your collection is sold out and something. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's maybe your opinion for this kind of use cases or kind of rewards for brands and personal people?
Yeah, it's if I could go back, I would probably not do an NFT. Like, it's been great, and but it sort of introduced a lot of challenges because of this exact reason. And at the time, I think a lot of us thought, oh, royalties is going to be a sustainable model, but halfway through last year, I started to realize and be like, oh yeah, actually this doesn't make sense. It's not going to be sustainable long term. And so I think when you setting out on the idea of royalties and like sustainable, if the project is doing well, there'll be people wanting to join and we'll get like that makes sense. But I think in hindsight and retrospect, it would have been safer to do it as like just a monthly subscription model type thing. And then you could always introduce an NFT at a future date. And so yeah, like if I could go back, I would probably do it differently, and maybe we still end up with an NFT and Zen Academy in a different capacity. But now we're in the position where, you know, it's 2 years, it's almost 2 years on now, where it's, you know, where we've used a lot of money, we hired people, we built things, we delivered products and courses and content and all this amazing stuff, had events. But now it's like, all right, you know, royalties are dwindling. And we've been working on this for like 8 months. It was like, how do we generate, well, actually a year, how do we generate revenue? We looked at consulting and we looked at other options. And the funny and ironic thing is we're getting back to the beginning where it's like, okay, maybe some sort of monthly subscription, or we sell access to courses, because these are the valuable things that, like, the product that I can create, that we can create, is content, is like courses, is educate, like this. And people will pay for this stuff in the world. There's a big industry of people that will pay to, you know, learn and take a structured course that we put a lot of time and effort into. And so that's kind of like the model that we're working with now.
You tell something about the royalties, yeah, about OpenSea and something like this, yeah. It was a big payment, a big monetizing for big collections last year, and they start with this idea. And then we saw this year the big fight between Blur and OpenSea. Yeah, we have the problem with zero royalties. Creators are down. What's your opinion? What do you think? Is it a good choice to make the creator fees about zero for collectors, or do you have another opinion that you say it is a big problem at this time that we have this fight?
I think it's kind of inevitable. So like the way the smart contracts work is that they weren't enforceable on a smart contract level. So we were always trusting marketplaces. And I didn't know that when I was getting into the space, and I think most people didn't. But at a certain point, you learn that, and then you start to realize it'll probably be a race to zero as new marketplaces come out and try and take market share. And they were like, before Blur, there was SudoSwap that was doing it, and there are other marketplaces doing it as well. But Blur certainly had the biggest impact, I would say, because it was like a good product that traders, I think especially, would use. And so that definitely sped up that sort of race to zero with royalties. I think royalties are a really interesting and exciting and great model for artists and creators, and you know, I think that makes a ton of sense. I think it makes less sense for like a business or like a PFP project. I think it's cool, and like I love the experimentation, and I think it would be wonderful where it works out. But the alignment of incentives are a little out of place, where a project is incentivized for people to sell, because when someone sells an NFT, then you get money. So I've always felt that there's a bit of friction there. And that's why coming up with new models to me makes sense.
Make you maybe a good thing, or maybe what we see is a marketplace for companies, as own marketplace companies. Yeah, maybe we saw, I think it was Canon or something like this in USA. They start their own marketplace where you can trade and buy your NFTs. Do you think we see this in the future more and more, that we have companies that launch their own NFTs, and we lost the centralization, that we have marketplace for own companies?
I think we'll definitely have that. We already have a little bit of that, but then they stop being like true NFTs to a certain extent. You lose the true ownership, you lose the decentralization, and that they might as well not be NFTs if you can only buy and sell and trade them on their marketplace. I think we'll definitely see more of it. And it's a trade-off, right? As a buyer, if you're buying an NFT or a collector, you have to ask yourself what really matters to you. And some people won't care. They'll just buy it and the centralized thing will be fine. But a lot of people will care and do care. And they're like, I want to own it. I want to be able to trade it wherever I want, and nobody can change it, and all this kind of stuff. And that's where the decentralized versions will probably make more sense.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Yeah, we will see what's happening in the future. At this time is so much. Yeah, I think Bitcoin ordinals the next thing. Yeah, but it's another theme that we're not talking about at this time. Maybe we talk about the next step in the second Zen Academy. I tell you before that I read a new letter about your PFP collection. There is launching, and you told me before next month maybe. What is your plan now with the Zen PFP pictures? You told before you have decided to launch no PFP at your start, but now you are launching. What is the plan?
Yeah, so we've been working on these for a while now, and the reason I didn't want to launch in 2021 with a PFP is because there's so many PFPs already on the market, and they're even like today there's way more. So then why are we doing it? And I think it's because we've built this wonderful community over the last 18 to 24 months. And it's a way to give them, like an existing community, a PFP now. So we're not trying to sell it. We're not doing a big mint, and we're not trying to raise funds. It's really for our existing community, a way to give them a piece of beautiful art that then, if they want, they can go on Twitter, social media, use a Zen PFP. And also it works as like marketing, of course, because then other people might see them on Twitter and be like, oh, I like your PFP. What is that? What is this community about? And I think it works in both ways. And so again, in terms of like, we're not trying to build, in terms of like roadmap and stuff, we're not trying to build a metaverse or be the next Disney. We're not an IP brand. We're still a membership community focused on educational content and events and access and networking and all these kind of things. And I think that's fine. Like that's who we are. And so like there are people that will appeal to. And if they want to join, then they'll be able to pick up one of our PFPs or so we have these NFTs called Zen chests. These are the ones that the only way to get a PFP is to burn one of these Zen chests. And so people can buy those and get their PFPs if they want to. I'm honestly, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, and it's just going to be a way to reward our community and bring the already existing community closer together. And again, because we're not promising the world, expectations are sort of, I think, on the lower end. We're not saying we're going to do this. We're not raising, 10 million, 50 million, a lot of money to build. It's what we already have, and just strengthening that community.
So I understand that your PFPs is now the same way when you were started with your non-PFP collections. Yeah, you build, you make content, you build a big networking and something like this. It's an access to your own community and special people. And the PFP, I think, is your identify with the Zen Academy more and more, and with your digital identity. Yeah, so that's the reason. When is do you have the exactly launching time, and how can I start or how get an access for your PFP collection?
We don't have an exact launch date yet. There's still some moving pieces. Like we're deciding how many one-of-ones do we want, because those get created at the end, and that's going to take a bit of time in the website. But I think like probably late August is a high likelihood of when we'll be launching. And the only way to get access is to own a Zen chest. So this is when we launched in 2021, we had a token. People can burn that token to get a Zen chest, and then the Zen chest will be the thing that you reveal to get your PFP. And that way, so we didn't want to sell more NFTs. So we haven't like done another 10K or 20K collection to really grow the size, because I think that especially in this market, there's not that demand. We don't need that many. So secondary market, buy a Zen chest is how you'll get access to our PFP.
How many NFTs there are? How many is the collection? How big?
It'll be 10K in total. So we have about 8 to 9,000, but we'll be basically minting 1,000 to put into our treasury, because royalties are disappearing. It's like if the collection does well in the future, we hold our own supply. So it'll be a 10K collection. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we see next month also a 10K PFP collection.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Pretty cool.
Up to 10K. So it depends on how, because people have to burn their chest. Yeah. So I think we'll probably maybe get like 5 or 6K out there. And then there'll be like the unrevealed, kind of like if you know Clonex vials or like Renga black box, that's the kind of thing where some will be unrevealed, or Azuki elemental beans. But then we have the revealed set. Yeah.
But please do not artwork problems with your PFPs. Like
We're going to show the whole, we're going to show people before they buy and burn what they're going to be revealing. So yeah, I've learned.
Maybe you can tell something that's at this point. What's your opinion? What's your thoughts about the problems last days? Maybe the reveal of the Azuki elementals, and we have the same thing like the captains from Dreamland. Yeah, it's maybe a short answer from you. What's your opinion?
I think with Azuki, I mean with both, but Azuki, the art is amazing. Like the is really good. The problem is the expectations and the similarities to the original collection. So I think that they didn't communicate, they didn't set expectations, they didn't really plan for how the original collectors would feel. So I think that that's the biggest problem. And I think that it just sort of made people lose a bit of faith in Azuki. And so I think they'll, potentially probably recover again, because the art is amazing and they figure out how to move forward from here. But that was the biggest problem to me. With captains, again, I think that there was a bit of expectation, maybe mismanagement, where people were hoping for, like, basically they just revealed the base models and some people had the exact same one, and they're going to do this whole trait store thing where you can upgrade and modify them in the future. I think people were just hoping for fully fleshed out PFPs and then the ability to upgrade them in the future. I think that the captain's quote unquote mistake or the issue is far less severe than the Azuki one. And I think the community kind of bounced back pretty quickly and is okay with it. But yeah, I think a lot of this all comes down to expectations and managing or mismanaging those expectations.
Maybe one more question. We talk at this time, we saw in the last 2 weeks that the NFT market is crashing more and more. Yeah, we have so much things up. You told it, the captains at this time, we have Azuki elementals at this time, and also Bored Apes at this time. Yeah, so it was the big 3 projects there was crashing down, and market is crashing. Yeah. Maybe what are your thoughts for the nearly future? What is maybe what will happening in the nearly future with the NFT market? Is it the bottom, or we saw in the next time maybe a push up? And what do you think at this time is your favorite PFP collection from the blue chips?
It's impossible to know if this is a bottom or not. I think that I don't think anything is going to significantly change in the short to medium term. And so the reason prices go up is if there's more liquidity and money entering the ecosystem. And I think for a long time now, it's been largely the same people moving funds around. But what I know is there is a lot of money sort of sitting on the sidelines, like people who are not buying or selling or doing anything, but they're interested in NFTs. And I think when the market starts to pick back up again, that's when a lot of that liquidity will sort of pour in. Who knows when that will be, and who knows where that will go to? Will it go to PFP projects? Will it go to 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 of them? Will it go to art? Will it go to new things? I think we don't really know. In terms of like my favorite at the moment, I think Pudgy Penguins to me is the one that always stands out. Yeah,
pretty cool. I tell you, my friend, last weekend I have my second in real life event. Yeah, it was the main event. Yeah, from All in NFT in Stuttgart, and here my head mode is laughing. And we have a big discussion. After this, we make a first half year recap with 7 peoples like this. Yeah, they're all in NFT space. And my last question for every guest on the stage was, what's your favorite PFP, or what was the PFP what you liked this in the first half, and what was your down PFP at this time? And I have the same answer like Pudgy Penguins. So I needed to say it as this time. Sorry, my friend.
No, I mean, exactly right. They're great. They've built a product. They've built real life value. They've bridged the gap between Web3 and the real world, and they've got revenue that they're generating outside of Web3. They've got great IP. Luca, the founder, the owner now is just really switched on and driven. And yeah, so to me, Pudgy Penguins are like the prime example of a PFP project that is probably going to make it. And then obviously you have like Bored Apes and Yuga Labs. They have so much money and they're doing so much. I think that they're struggling a little bit because they have so much going on right now. It's confusing. Like as a holder, I can't even keep up with the ecosystem, and they're leaning heavily into like the gaming side of things. Obviously the metaverse and the meta RPG stuff, and that doesn't appeal to everyone. Whereas with Pudgy Penguins, it's like cute characters. It has a lot more mainstream appeal. So those two, and I think like D-Gods and Utes are like, I'm a big Frank fan. I think he's really smart and switched on and gets it in a way that, and just has like natural talent that a lot of people don't, myself included, in terms of like that ability to just very quickly understand like the meta and the pulse of the community and pivot and switch and move quickly. And he's got like hunger, and he's young, and he's driven, and very much like Luca. So I think, yeah, I have a lot of, I think they're a little riskier than Pudgy Penguins because they haven't yet found that killer product market fit thing where like Pudgy Penguins have their soft toys and plushies, and they experiment a lot. But I think that they have a pretty good shot of making something.
Mm. And on the other side, what do you think? Which project is not good at this time, or maybe your project? What do you think? Oh, it's so big, yeah. There is so big something what we can do, or what the project can do. But at this time, we see nothing at this. Your fail of the year, maybe.
Fail of the year. I mean, it would probably have to be Azuki at this point. I think that their whole thing is like community and IP. And I think that they kind of had a bit of a setback on both fronts since the start of the year, and combine it with like previous setbacks. But like, I mean, they're really well funded. I think Moonbirds is probably also up there. That has to be like, yeah, like I love Moonbirds.
This I tell is at this main event, this was my fail of the year also.
Yeah. Honestly, I would say I would almost say Moonbirds was a fail of last year. I think a lot of the missteps that they made and like the downfall happened in the second half of last year, starting with like the CC0 pivot and things like that. This year, I think that they've done some things that I think are like moving them in a positive direction. So I think that positioning themselves as like the art collectors PFP, building out the mythics, obviously they've had some setbacks this year as well, but yeah, like I think that their biggest downfall happened last year, and Azuki's is either the start of last year when all the Zagamon stuff came out, or this year with the Elementals reveal. Ether as well, you could probably put in that category. It's like very in vogue now. A lot of people might not remember, but go back like 10 months ago, it was super hyped. Like going into the end of last year even, it was like everyone wanted to be on the list to mint this project. If they had somehow minted then, they would have minted out at 1 ETH. I have very little doubt about that. But then, the market changed significantly. I don't think that they pivoted or adjusted appropriately. They went too high. They made too many changes. They got fudded and didn't react quickly enough. And they've had a unfortunately big fall from grace, because the art, I think, again, the art is amazing, but like they just don't necessarily have that business acumen or the ability to pivot quickly in this market.
Yeah, pretty interesting at this time. Yeah, I think they're just not minting out. Yeah, the Ether project, no, like only
they just announced today. So they minted 2,000. They're going to airdrop one to everyone who's minted, or who owned one, and then have a fair Dutch auction for the rest, which I think is probably not the right move either.
I have Discord on my other screen, and I saw two big red news from the Easter Discord, so I need reading after our interview. Maybe we just come back maybe to the another project. Maybe we can see more at this time with your PFP collection. What is the next step when we are launching next month the PFPs? Have you another plans for your project, some big deals or something? Maybe we just have some alpha from Zeneca.
Yeah, so I mean, everyone's going to hear a lot more next month as we get like I think the way I think about marketing in this market is like you don't want to drag it out too long because attention spans are short and people will lose. So I think like the week of the mint or the reveal, like lead up to it, that's when we're really gonna mention everything and like show off the art and get people excited and talk about the community. But in terms of like the plans and like the alpha and the quote unquote utility and what you get, we're not promising a lot. And that's like, we're upfront. We're not saying we're not going to build this, that, or the other. It's really access to the community, plus like educational courses and events and things like that. That's like, to me, the most valuable part of being part of Zen Academy is like being part of this community of people that will help you, that will, you know, build alongside you, that you can tap into their network. And you know, and as I create more sort of educational courses, there will be sort of tangible value given to holders as well. Yeah.
I think I need a Zen chest for the PFP
I would
launching
love
next
that.
year. Yeah. I think my head mod is hearing at this time too. Yeah, for all listeners. Maybe we just buy two new members. Yeah,
That would be amazing.
I have an identity card from you.
A student ID.
Maybe,
So those
maybe
are the
you
free
can tell
ones.
something like this. Yeah, because people. Maybe they don't notice, they can go on Zen Academy and can mint a free or gas fees, but a free Zen Academy ID. What's this maybe?
Yeah, so this is something we launched a few months back towards the start of this year. And so you go to zenacademy.com and there's an enroll button at the top. And anyone can mint a free student ID. So we wanted to make it, because not everyone can afford, I don't know, 0.2 ETH to buy on secondary the Genesis token or the Zen chest. And we wanted to have like some level of access to the community for people that wanted to learn, because it's all about education, right? And it's all about teaching people about NFTs and all that kind of stuff. And so we made these NFTs. They're free. They're soul bound. So they can't be, you know, traded or sold. There's no financial anything. There's unlimited supply, so there's no rush. You don't have to, but like if you want, you can go get one. And it's part of like the whole goal of like helping onboard people into this space in a safe way. So like a few months before these student IDs, we released this free email course called 30 Days of NFTs, where like every day we send out an email to someone teaching them a bit. And we had about, I think, 10 to 15,000 people so far have signed up. So that's like, those people are like the people that were educating about NFTs. And then some of them will go on and buy our token on secondary or the PFP. But some, maybe they can't afford it or justify it. We still want to give them like something, some reward, some way to be part of the community. So now we've got, I don't know off the top of my head how many we've minted, but like the total community size of Zen Academy, I would say, is like 20 to 40,000, somewhere in that range. But we still only have 10. So we have like the premium tiers and then like the open-ended inclusive tier for anyone that might want to join and just check it out. So yeah.
So that's the different. Yeah, I have the identity, a student identity, where you get an access to your newsletter, so for something onboarding for NFTs and something like this, and have a small access to your own Discord. And if I get the Zen chest or the PFP later, I get more access in the Discord, maybe more channels and big networking with you, and usually with people they are also a PFP holder or something like this.
Yeah, more access, more events, and then much bigger discounts and stuff. So like with courses I create, for instance, I created 3 video courses last year: how to launch an NFT project, how to like grow a community in this space, and one on like mental health. And if you have one of the paid NFTs, then you get free access to the courses. If you don't, then you have to like pay for access. So it's like that's like where there's utility to the holders. And I'm working on some more courses now. I think probably the plan is they'll be free for like the 333 club. Then they'll be like heavily discounted. So like 50, 60, maybe % off if you have the token. And then full price for everyone else, just because, again, we need to make some revenue here.
Yeah, pretty cool. I want next year I celebrate my 3rd main event, and at this time I announce it later at this day, but if the podcast here for listeners is recording, it's later. So next year at the 1st June week on 2024, I have the main event, and I think I by, and maybe my head more to Zenchess PFP. Maybe it's the entry for your coming to the main event at Stuttgart next year for us.
Yeah, that would be really fun. I don't know what my plans are next year, but I would love to attend. It sounds a lot of fun.
I sent you an invite. Maybe you can write it before there come other dates. And if there are now conferences and something, I will be happy, and maybe the community will be happy if you're there. I think we write and discuss after this podcast more and more. But I tell you, my head mod is the arms in the air. Maybe we need a Zen Academy, Zenchess, and PFP, and then we see us next year in real life. Next after the NFC Lisboa.
That would be great. That would be great.
My friend, thank you very much for your time. I know you are very busy, and thank you for your talk, for your opinions, and I think thank you for everything, for your onboarding Web3 and NFT people. I think we have the same in our heads what we want and what we will do. We make content. I tell you at the NFC Lisboa, I do a daily NFT Web3 podcast, and you tell me. You know how hard it is to produce daily content, and so I also know it. So thank you very much, my friend, for this, and I hope you will be here in this Web3 for more and more years.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me. This was very fun, and I look forward to meeting you again next time.
Thank you, my friend. And for your listeners, jetzt know in German, schaltet das nächste Mal wieder ein, wenn es heißt All in NFT. Thank you, Zeneca, my friend. Bye-bye.